you're someone who could, God forbid, be targeted by an authoritarian administration.
I really don't know what to do. Really, I mean, like, I'm living my life as it is. I mean, at this point, a ceasefire with Israel is like dating your ex and saying, "Oh, but this time I think he's changed." No, he hasn't. Israel treats truces like the way a gym membership, you know, like they sign up, never commit, always ends up like blaming the other side for not losing weight.
Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The reason this crackdown is happening, and you said it in passing earlier, you said you moved from a country where you couldn't criticize your own government to a country where you can't criticize a foreign government.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts because you're about to witness Bassem Youssef's transformation from a sharp-tongued satirist to a full-blown truth insurgent. What starts as a dark comedy routine quickly escalates into a forensic takedown of America's authoritarian makeover, with campus hypocrisy and Gaza's horrors laid bare on the operating table. This isn't just an interview, it's a masterclass in weaponized humor where every joke carries the payload of a truth bomb and the laughter leaves bloodstains. By the time it's over, you'll either be standing in ovation or reaching for the censor's reporting button. But one thing's certain, you'll never look at free speech the same way again. The only question is, are you ready to handle what comes next? Let's jump in.
Skeptical people will have to admit, what is left of American democracy? And I think that moment's coming pretty soon. Don't you agree? We are heading for that moment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, again, there's no limit to the power.
So hold on, where does that leave you then, Bassem? To go back to my earlier question, you can avoid hanging out with brown people all you want, but you are an Arab American comedian who criticizes Israel and Trump, and you're saying, as I'm saying, that this country.
Are you telling on me, man? Are you blowing the whistle?
I am. There's a tape record. We're not taping this at all. But you're someone who could, God forbid, be targeted by an authoritarian administration.
I really don't know what to do. Really, I mean, like, I'm living my life as it is. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to put it on the back of my mind because I really don't know how to deal with that kind of stress. And honestly, lately, and I'm sure that you've noticed, I hardly tweet anything.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about anything. This is very, very depressing.
Is that because you're like depressed or demoralized, or is that because you're self-censoring?
No, not self-censoring at all.
You just want to avoid that morass.
By the way, I stopped tweeting a lot even before Trump became president.
Yeah.
I don't see the point. And we had this talk about like being kind of losing hope and depressed, but like the only way I can do it is just like to go out and make fun of it.
Yeah.
Right. And until that stops or that being interrupted, I really don't know what else I can do.
I mean, look, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The reason this crackdown is happening, and you said it in passing earlier, you said you moved from a country where you couldn't criticize your own government to a country where you can't criticize a foreign government. And we are in that weird situation where if you're a student at Harvard, for example, right now, Harvard University has agreed to use the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which means that if you're a student at Harvard, you can say America was born out of racism, but you can't say Israel was born out of racism, right? This is the weird country we live in right now, where a foreign government is more protection than a domestic government. This administration is going out of its way. Some Muslims thought that Trump would be better than Biden. I laugh out loud at that. This administration is going out of its way to give Israel cover as it resumes its genocidal war. You and I talked in London about the ceasefire, about the prospect of a ceasefire. When you see what happened in Gaza just days ago, 750 people killed in 72 hours, 200 children killed in a night. As someone who's been following this, arguing about this, talking about this since the beginning, what was going through your head last week when you saw those reports coming out of Gaza?
I mean, again, like they can. There's no checks and balances with Israel anymore. I mean, Israel broke the truce. Again, big news. I mean, at this point, a ceasefire with Israel is like dating your ex and saying, "Oh, but this time I think he's changed." No, he hasn't. Israel treats truces like the way a gym membership, you know, like they sign up, never commit, always ends up like blaming the other side for not losing weight. It's like the same thing. They have broken this ceasefire 100 times. And it's kind of like basically this is Israel taking smoke breaks between airstrikes. That's basically it. That's the whole thing.
What's so depressing is they make it very, very clear in Israeli media, on Israeli television, that's what's going on. It's American and British television, it's the BBC, the CNNs, the New York Times that run cover for them. When you look at what they're saying, I mean, somebody said recently, like, the translate button on Twitter has opened people's eyes to the genocidal discourse in Israeli society. I mean, I think we have the clip of Israel Katz, the Israeli defense minister, making an explicitly genocidal threat to the people of Gaza.
Unless all the Israeli hostages are released and Hamas is expelled from Gaza, Israel will act with forces never before seen. Take the U.S. president's advice. Return the hostages and expel Hamas, and other options will be presented to you, including relocating to other places in the world for those who wish. The alternative is utter destruction and devastation.
The alternative is utter destruction and devastation, right? So you have people in the West going, how dare you say Israel's genocidal? And then you have Israeli ministers saying, hey, I'm going to make another genocidal speech on camera.
Is that something new? How many genocidal statements came out of Israel and people talk about it? And then
they're not stopping.
Again, Habibi, it is like, this is the word. Listen, I think we really need to wake up that the brutal imperialistic colonial world never went away. And the honeymoon that we had after Second World War, thinking that there is something as international law,
yes,
or the Geneva Conventions or the whatever treaties and human rights declaration, doesn't really apply for. They never applied, and then we thought that it would, but it never did. You understand that those people that they have the military power, like America on a global level and Israel on a regional level, this bigger empire and smaller empire, or smaller like dog empire, they possess weapons of destruction that we have never seen throughout history. I think these people are, in a way, was like, we have all the power. Why should any laws apply to us? America said it openly, like ICC. I'm going to invade the ICC if you did that, anything to us or Israel. So the fact is, like, these people are talking from a point of power. They don't care about the tweets and the reports and the thing. It's just like you are now in a very new age of just brutal, unmatched power. And I think it's just like the veil has been removed from that facade of civility, yes, and modernization. I think we're heading into a very, very, very dark place.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Naomi Klein recently on our show Unshocked, and she was making the point that this is the mafia-like approach to the world, right? This is the mafia polar world. It's not a multipolar world. Trump sees the world as kind of strong men. Him and Netanyahu and Milei and Putin and Orban and MBS, Modi. That's how he sees the world. As you say, that honeymoon period of the international liberal order does seem to be very much over when these guys are in charge. And it's a very transactional world. It's a brutal world. It's a world based on just power, as you say. And the Israelis are very much part of that. Interestingly, on the Trump front, I mean, if that's the argument, right, that you're making, then what happens to Gaza? Do you believe that the Israelis will get their way and their people will be ethnically cleansed and this will be the Riviera and Trump's Gaza?
I said this many times, and people said I was exaggerating. I said it on many of my interviews, and I said, like, Israel will get what they want because there is no one to check their power, and America is behind them 100%. I mean, I think America is even ahead of them. They turned Gaza into a living hell. They're turning, and I said that on Piers Morgan the second time. It's like, tomorrow they're going to push people into Gaza, and they will push the West back into Jordan, and then they will push the people of Gaza and Sinai into Egypt. The same thing, piecemeal. National security threat, defending ourselves, and it just takes like one bomb, one bullet, one missile to go in and just like invade everybody. They will do that. And they have been doing that over the years. We're just seeing that in acceleration because, as I said, it is unprecedented power, unprecedented support. So basically, they are the little dog with the superpower abilities, and no one is there to stop them. Right now, America is amassing the biggest military campaign in the Red Sea since the Iraq invasion. You've seen the movements of the Iraq.
Yeah.
All that to crush the Yemenis, the Houthis, who are in military power level. They are kind of like still in the cave age, or in the Stone Age compared to the military power of Israel. And yet they're going there with all of their might. And this is the unchecked power, guys. And who's going to stop them? Russia, who are being exhausted in Ukraine. China, who doesn't want to go into any kind of confrontation. Iran was basically, we see it being clipped right in front of us. Hezbollah, Syria, whatever, and it's going to be the Houthis, and then they're going to do it Iran, and then you don't know when. So it's basically...
They're doing it with Trump's blessing, right? And when you mentioned the Houthi campaign, right? And it being a very big campaign. You mentioned Golan Heights. We've talked about the Israel genocide resuming with record numbers of kids killed. What do you say to some of our fellow Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, brown folks who were adamant that Donald Trump would be better for the Middle East than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? That actually he might restrain Israel because he doesn't like Netanyahu. I was told all sorts of things about Donald Trump would be tougher. He's anti-war. He's America first. What do you make of that when you look at the record right now?
I really think that both of them is basically death by poison or a gunshot. Seriously, I mean,
you didn't have high hopes for either side. You were not someone saying Trump would be better.
I mean, it is one of them. Like, we have seen what the Biden administration did, and what Kamala Harris is kind of allowing them to do with an occasional step of theirs. But did the Biden administration even stop one arms shipment? They didn't.
Well, they paused the 2,000-pound bombs, of course, that was it, which Trump then released.
You see, tomato,
yes.
you know.
Well, let me Bassem, let me play a clip to you of Ohad Tal, who is a Knesset member in Israel. He's a member of Bezalel Smotrich religious Zionism party, the far-right party in Israel. He was interviewed by Channel 4 News by Sikandar Kamani. Have a listen to this exchange.
A year and a half of very intense war with a lot of civilian casualties in Gaza shows that it's not possible to militarily alone defeat Hamas.
A year and a half under the Biden administration that forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but to feed them with the other. So I can tell you that now the war is going to be handled in a totally different way with the Trump administration, with the backing of America. Trump himself said numerous times that all hell should break on Gaza if they're not bringing back all hostages.
What does unleashing hell look like? I mean, you've already seen under, as you say, the Biden administration, daily death tolls of around 300-400 people a day.
You will see exactly what it means.
From the horse's mouth there, you have Israeli politicians openly saying that Biden, who, as you and I have discussed, gave Israel complete and utter support, all the weaponry and money they wanted. That wasn't enough. He made us, what's the line he said? He forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but feed them with the other. It's going to be different under Trump. I mean, that's from the Israelis themselves.
I cannot blame anybody for voting for Trump, for not voting or voting for I just like, it's much easier for us to realize that both administration are just giving Israel everything that they wanted, but with different speeds. That's the whole thing. That's the only reason. But it's going to happen sooner or later, and I don't know if it should happen sooner or later, or whatever. But really, it's the same policy. And whatever is Trump doing now, it happened because of the lubrication that the Biden administration gave for a year and a half.
Fair.
You have this statement from an Israeli government official, but we forget about the other statement that was done by American officials, like Brian Mast, who said like there's no innocent children in Gaza. You know, it's the same thing. So I really don't know why are we still blown away with this, because this
I'm not blown away. I actually predicted that this would happen under Trump, unfortunately.
So there you have it, folks. Staring down the barrel of a democracy where criticizing a foreign government gets you cancelled faster than a Netflix sitcom, and the land of the free feels more like a subscription service with terms and conditions written in genocidal fine print. Bassem's right. Whether it's Biden's pause button on bombs or Trump's Unleash Hell sequel, it's just two flavors of Imperial milkshake. Same blender, different speed settings. And Mehdi, he's out here reminding us that international law is basically a piñata at a supervillain's birthday party. Let me know down in the comments what y'all think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one.